All right. I'll wait till I see a little thumb and then I'll know I'm live. I had some trouble getting it to start. Brito, do you want to come sleep over here so the kids can see you? Come on. Okay, there's Brito. Here's Lyra. She wants to say hello too. Oh, I see a thumb. Good morning. I hope somebody out there is under the age of about 10. This is for my kids. Adults, humor me. You can come, you can go, you can listen to a story. I personally think a lot of you need more stories in your life. So if I was you, I'd stick around and just listen to a story. But this is really for the kids, right? So we're going to start out. I'm going to read them a story. And Brito said hello, but now he wants to go lay at my feet, so whatever. And Lyra's here, and Reka's here too, so I can introduce you to them at the end. I can call them over, and you can see them. I'm going to read a story requested by Jennifer's daughter. What time is it? It's 1 o'clock. So I need to know that you guys are here before I start. What is Jennifer's daughter's name? I'm not going to keep calling the poor child Jennifer's daughter. But anyway, she requested the story about Brito needing a new home. And then I looked at how it ends, and I can't stop there because it's terrible. So I have to read you the next one too. Otherwise, well, it's just sad, and I don't want to do that. This is the book for those of you who are reading along. So if you have the book and you want to read along, I'm starting on page 11. The chapter is Brito Needs a Home. And then after I read the 2 chapters, you can ask me questions, or you can look at Brito if you want. And then what I want from you, if you like the stories, I want you to draw a picture of Brito and have your mom or dad take a picture of the picture and put it on my wall, and just put a little note saying, here's Brito, or you can draw a picture of me. That'd be nice too. And then put that on my wall. Or you could do Lyra, or you could do Reka, or if you don't even like to draw, then instead of drawing, you could maybe, okay, your parents are gonna love this. Tell your parents that you want to build a little Brito out of like toothpicks or something. Get glue and toothpicks and just build a little doggy Brito. And then take a picture of that, and then I want to see it. Or you could use Legos and build one. I don't care what you do, but if you like the story, show me something. Let me know you appreciated my story. So let me take a quick look through here my comments and see if I know who my viewers are today. Let's look. Look at all these adults, for God's sakes. All right, that's fine, that's fine. All right, hello people. I'm going to give you a bedtime story. So if you are somewhere in the world that it's bedtime, then excellent. I'm going to put you to sleep. Go off, get your tea. Hi, Chance. Tell me your kids' names. And a snack for those of you who want a snack, and a little coffee for those of you who are just waking up, and a little wine for those of you who are at that point in your day, and a little hot chocolate for those who do not have them. And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Emma. Hello, Emma. I'm reading the story that you requested. It is bedtime in Germany. All right, well, Julie, then you can grab some wine or fruit. You would tell me to eat fruit, so I'm going to tell you to eat fruit. All right, here we go. First of all, here's your picture. This is Brito Needs a Home. Can you see the picture? Am I doing it about right? See, isn't that a great picture? It's beautiful. And this is actually a true story. Mostly, admittedly, I'm talking from the dog's point of view, but it tries to be a true story. Okay, Brito Needs a Home. When I was first born, no one knew how special I was. To be honest, even I didn't know how special I was, because no one wanted to keep me. I kept getting moved from one home to another. I don't know why I had a lot of homes, because I am not a bad dog. Yeah, I made some mistakes here and there, but who doesn't? In my first home, I didn't know where the bathroom was, so sometimes I would pee or poop in the wrong place. Then I would get yelled at, which would scare me, so I started to hide when I had to go to the bathroom. The next thing I knew, they didn't want me anymore, and they gave me to a new family. Fine with me, I didn't want them either. In my second home, there was a very big dog with very big feet. His big paws would step on me, and I would yelp and run away to hide. I hid behind the bed because he was too big to follow me there. Sometimes big hands would reach in and try to make me come out. That was also scary, so I would growl. I didn't growl because I was mean. I growled because I was scared and I didn't know what else to do. It's not that I'm a scaredy cat or anything, but hey, I was just a puppy. Give me a break. I was trying to say leave me alone, but most of the time no one listened. In that house, they did not understand dog language. Here's a picture of Brito hiding under the, see, he's hiding from the big dog under the chair. He was scared. At first, I just stayed hidden behind the bed, but that was boring. So I started looking for something to do back there, and I found things to chew. Mostly, it was trash that had fallen behind the couch, but sometimes I chewed up things that made my new family really angry, like wires or important papers. I also liked to chew because I was getting new teeth and my mouth hurt. Anyway, I would hide behind the couch and chew things and growl when I got scared. And then that family didn't want me anymore either. Even though I wasn't very happy there, I was starting to wonder if a not very good home was better than no home at all. Next, I found myself in a place called a foster home where I had a foster mom. This lady didn't scare me. She didn't grab me or yell at me, and the other dogs weren't allowed to chase me around, so I didn't need to hide. This lady liked me and taught me how to be a good dog. I learned where the bathroom was and that I should chew my toys instead of things that weren't mine. And even when I chewed the wrong things or got into trouble, no one got really angry about it. Hey, sometimes puppies make bad decisions. I wanted to stay in that home forever, but even though I was very small and filled with personality, there was really no room for me there either. Sometimes I pretend to be okay on the outside even when I'm sad on the inside. So maybe I looked like a happy dog to most people, but honestly, I was beginning to feel pretty bad about myself. There had to be someone looking for a small, white, scruffy dog who sometimes got into a little bit of trouble. I wanted to have a family to call my own, and it wasn't looking too good. But that's when the dog trainer lady showed up. I'll tell that story in my next post, so be sure to check back soon. Now we do have some comments here because he's writing on a blog. So the first one is from Bruno. This sure brings back memories. I had a lot of homes when I was little too. I was so scared when I sat in a kennel by myself and dogs were barking all around me, but then I got adopted by a wonderful family. I can't wait to read what happens next, Brito. Best of luck, and I'm going to subscribe right now. And then Trish, as Sheltie, says, wow, your life sounds a lot like mine. I used to get scared when I saw big dogs, so I yelled at them to stay away. Then Mom started giving me treats whenever big dogs were near. So now I'm not so scared when the big dogs come around because I know that treats will follow. But I still don't want them too close. I'm sure glad I don't have to live with big dogs. And finally, Sally said, I'm glad I've only had one home. Okay, here we have our next chapter. This is Brito finds a forever home. See that person? That's me. This story is about me too, so I like it a lot. Okay, Brito finds his forever home. One day, a lady came to help my foster mom train dogs. This lady likes dogs so much that she trains them all day long. I had never heard of that job before. I watched her quietly and thought that she was really nice. I like how she gave all the dogs treats and taught their owners how to play with toys. I could tell that she was listening when the dog talked to her and that she was teaching the owners how to listen as well. I wanted to talk to her too. At the end of the day, after most of the other people and dogs went home, I saw my chance. While she was talking to the other humans, I brought her a toy. Sometimes humans are very slow about dog language, so to help her understand, I put the ball on the ground right in front of her feet where she couldn't miss it. Then I looked right up at her face, smiled a big smile, and wagged my tail. Well, this human wasn't slow at all. She understood right away and she threw my ball. She played with the other dogs too, but I could tell that she liked me the best by the way she responded every time I smiled at her. Wow, she was really paying attention to me. I liked the way I felt when she was in the room, so of course that made me want to spend even more time with her. Then I heard the humans talking about me. I felt bad about what they said, but I pretended not to care. They told the dog trainer lady that I had already had a lot of homes. I worried that she might think I was a bad dog because of all those homes. It sure didn't sound very good when they told my story. Maybe she wouldn't understand about the hiding and the peeing and the growling and how no one wanted me. I started to worry that she might not like me so much after all. But this lady, she was smart. She said what I really needed was a permanent home. Next thing I knew, all of the other humans and dogs had left the room. The lady sat on the floor with me. We played with toys. We ate a snack together. She held me on her lap and she clapped and laughed when I smiled at her. I didn't want her to leave. When the other humans came back in the room, they took me away and the nice lady stayed behind. I could hear her talking on the phone, and I was pretty sure she was talking about me. The other humans were being very quiet. They were listening too. Yep, she was talking about me. I got worried because the conversation went on for a very long time. It seemed that maybe the person on the phone did not want another dog, that there might not be any room for one more dog, not even a small one like me. It was touch and go for a while. I can tell you that for sure. I was so afraid to get my hopes up, but I really wanted this lady to take me with her. Next thing I knew, the lady picked me up, put me in a special little box made just for dogs, and said I was going to live with her forever. I didn't want her to change her mind, so I was on my best behavior. The lady took me on an airplane, and I stayed totally quiet. I figured I could introduce her to my full personality when we knew each other a little better. When we arrived at my new home, I met more people. My human dad, 2 boys named Nick and Chris, who would be my human brothers, and 2 dogs who would be my siblings. Their names are Lyra and Reka. I liked the boys right away, but the dogs were big, and I'd been in that situation before, and I was scared. But my new mom didn't let them chase me, and soon I knew that they wouldn't hurt me. In fact, I really like Lyra now. Reka? Well, maybe not so much. She's kind of grumpy. Anyway, I didn't need to hide behind the couch because no one was allowed to grab me, not people or dogs. And when I got scared, my mom would stand right next to me and pet me quietly. I felt so safe that I didn't need to yell very much anymore. I didn't need to pee in the house because I was taken to the yard a lot, and I got lots of pets and attention when I peed outside. When I had accidents in the house, no one said anything. They just cleaned up and took me out to potty more often. It's not like I wanted to potty on the floor, but sometimes I would get so busy with what I was doing that I'd just stop paying attention and an accident would happen. The whole family took turns taking me out to pee and poop so I could learn good potty habits. My new family told me every day that I was wonderful, one of a kind. They spent so much time helping me be right that I never had any time to be wrong. That made me feel proud, and that's when I knew for sure that I was a really special dog. When I first arrived at my new home, I didn't want to get my hopes up. A lot of people had told me they would keep me, and then they changed their minds. But soon I knew that things were different here. It didn't take long for me to know that this would be my home forever. My mom likes to tell me how lucky she is to have me, and now I know that she was smart to take me home. It just took a while for the right person to come along and realize how much they needed a small, scruffy white dog in their lives. I'll admit that I am not the perfect dog, but hey, who's perfect? Some days I bark too much at the squirrels outside, and other times I yell at new dogs in public. I really don't like strangers picking me up, and I get jealous when someone else is getting something that I want. But my family still loves me. My mom says there are no perfect dogs, and anyway, she isn't always so perfect herself, but that's a story for another day. See, I told you that my story started out sad but ended up happy. Those are the best kinds of stories of all. Now we're going to go to the comments. The first one is from Bruno. He's a lab. Brito, your story was a real nail biter. I was scared that the dog trainer lady might not take you home. Congratulations on your adoption. I hope she got lots of balls for you to play with. Tell her to stock up. And then Champ says, I chase squirrels too, but I've never caught one. And then Brito responded to Champ, me neither, but I practice a lot. Mom says that practice makes perfect, so I figure it's only a matter of time. Don't give up hope. And then Lexi says, I get yelled at a lot when I make mistakes. You're a lucky dog, Brito. And then Paula, his foster mama, says, Brito, it's Paula, your foster mom. Wow, I'm so happy to see you online. I talk to your mom all the time on Facebook, so I've been watching your videos. I know that she loves you very much. Congratulations on your new blog. Great idea. And Brito writes back to Paula. He says, hi, Paula. I'm so excited that you're here. I still love you and appreciate all you did for me. Don't forget to subscribe. So that is Brito's story. That's how he came to live with me. So now the adults know who didn't know before, right? So now I'm going to read and see if you have any comments. Kids, if you have any questions, you can ask. Adults, you can ask too, but, you know. Let's see. Do-do-do. Yes, guys, show these to your kids. They'll enjoy it. Hello, Loki and Katya. I hope you enjoyed the stories. You guys can drink anything you want at bedtime, but let's keep in mind that this is for children. Hi, William. Thank you for taking in my family. Bill. Well, Camila, this will help your child learn English. Good job, Colleen. I hope Mr. J enjoys your story. My story. All right. Cancel. What am I doing? Oh, I pushed the button. Let me try swiping. Oh, that worked. Okay. Oh, good. This is the perfect story to read to a kid who has a rescue dog. Yeah, Brito's here. Brito, come here. Come here. Come here. Up, 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 up. Do you want to see you? Come on. There's Brito. There. Here. There. Your fans want to see you. There he is. Isn't he adorable? Oh. All dogs need a chance to tell their story. That's right. How is Brito? He's good. What kind of dog is Brito? I think he is according to his DNA, West Highland White Terrier, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's a Chihuahua Terrier. God only knows what is and what else is in there. I am an older kid. Good. Oh, you're welcome, Katya. I'm glad you enjoyed his story. Yes, Angie, he is as handsome as ever. All right, no questions? Okay. So now we're going to get to the adult topic. Personally, I'd rather just read kid stories because it's fun. I want to talk about barking. So now you have to mentally change gears. These two are not compatible, but what can I tell you? Well, first of all, I was on my walk today and I was thinking about it. So where it came from was I'm teaching a class, and I have a dog in the class I've had for several weeks now. And right off the bat, the owner said to me, I have a barking problem. My dog barks all the time. And so that was interesting because the class is not about barking. So whenever somebody brings something up that's not really about the topic, it makes me realize it's important to them, right? It's on their mind. So that's fine. And I want to understand where that's coming from. And so we had a little conversation about it, and I asked her where she thought the barking was coming from. And I said, do you think your dog is frustrated, or is it just a sign of arousal, or what? And she said, oh, well, probably a little frustration over arousal. And, okay, that's fine. And then as the class continued, what I was starting to notice was that when the dog would bark, she would withhold the reward. And I asked her why she was doing that. So her thinking was, and this should make sense since most of the people watching this are dog trainers, your fear is demand barking, right? You're afraid that if you are trying to teach the dog something and it barks instead of giving you the behavior you want, then you don't want to reward that, right? So you don't give the dog a cookie, even if they did some other aspect of the behavior that you wanted. So you said sit, the dog sat and barked at the same time, you withhold the cookie because you consider the risk of reinforcing the barking greater than the benefit of reinforcing the sit. And I think this is exactly the issue I want to talk about, because I think dog trainers tend to be on the controlling side. We like to believe that we actually control many, many aspects of our dog's behavior that maybe we don't control at all. We also tend to think in terms of the fact that the dog is always learning. As a matter of fact, we use that phrase a lot, right? We say, the dog is always learning. So you are always teaching the dog based on the things you do. And that phrase is both true and false. It is absolutely true that the dog is always learning, but it is absolutely false that you are always training. Here's the reality. The reality is the vast majority of the time the dog is not in an operant state of mind at all. The dog is just being classically conditioned. That is learning, but it's not what you are controlling. So what do I mean? Well, if a dog is barking and you give the dog a cookie, are you teaching the dog to bark? I don't know. I'm blinking right now, right? Every 30 seconds or so I blink. If you were giving me cookies roughly every 30 seconds after I'm blinking, would I blink more to get a cookie out of you? Only if I'm aware that the blinking causes the cookie, right? Does your dog think that the barking causes the cookie? Is that why your dog is barking? To get food out of you, or toys, or attention, or whatever? If it is, then we call it demand barking. So how common is demand barking? Not very common. It's rare. The reality is the vast majority of barking is not your dog's attempt to manipulate you into giving them what they want. The vast majority of barking is simply an expression. It's simply an expression of emotion. It's how your dog is feeling. And it's there's lots of emotions that will elicit barking. Being angry, dogs will bark aggressively. Being afraid, dogs will bark fearfully. Being excited, dogs will yip excitedly. Being in predatory mode, dogs will bark in a prey voice, for lack of a better word. These all sound a little different. I can't necessarily tell for other people's dogs, but I can tell for my own. Just sheer excitement. Oh my God, we're going for a walk. Elicits barking. So barking is an expression of emotion. So is movement. Physical movement of the body is an expression of emotion. If you're afraid, you might pace, right? If you're excited, you might walk around and excited because you can't wait to go. You can't just sit down, you know. If you're afraid, if you're angry, most people don't move a lot under anger, but maybe most people actually stop moving under anger. But anyway, my point is that these are not things that we train. So if a person is afraid and they are moving and you decide to only give them cookies when they stop moving because you're trying to train them, you're sort of missing the point. If you successfully teach your dog not to bark by withholding cookies when they are barking, you're probably dealing with a symptom rather than the underlying cause, and that is going to lead you to trouble. So in the case of the person I had, the student I had, I told her, ignore the barking, look at the rest of the dog's behavior, and reward the dog. And she did, but it was painful for her because she has probably years of experience worrying about operant condition, years of worrying about the things she chooses to reinforce becoming stronger. And this is a huge and common response of humans, dog trainers in particular, we're the worst, to things we don't like. But the problem is if you don't recognize whether a behavior you don't like is under the dog's choice or not, then you're going to get it wrong. And it does matter, and here's why it matters. Barking is very often an expression of frustration. In a training setup, like you're shaping or whatever, dogs bark because they're frustrated because you're not doing it right, for lack of, I'm sorry, I'll be blunt, right? The dog does not know what you want, or they would just do it. If your dog knew what you wanted, it would be a whole lot easier, right? So, for example, you're shaping the retrieve, you're offering the dog the dumbbell, they have nose touched it till the cows come home, and then you decide, no, I need more, so you don't click and reinforce nose touching, so the dog bops it 5 more times, gets frustrated, stops trying, and barks at you. I think it's fair to say that if the dog knew that all they had to do was open their mouth and you would click, that they wouldn't bark, they would open their mouth. So the problem is the barking is a symptom of an underlying problem. The underlying problem is frustration because the dog does not know how to win in training under those circumstances. So then the question is, whose responsibility is that? Well, you can treat it as a barking problem and punish the barking, however you punish, whatever that means to you, whether it means ignoring or smacking the dog, I don't know. You can punish the barking, or you can ignore it and deal with what it's telling you about how the dog feels. So if the dog is barking in the middle of a shaping session, and he hasn't been barking up till now, you offered the dumbbell, he got the nose touch, nose touch, nose touch, he's doing that great, and then you stop rewarding that and the barking starts. Instead of punishing the barking, why don't you say to yourself, why is the dog barking? The dog is barking because he doesn't know how to succeed. What can you do to make the dog more likely to succeed? So if I run with the example I just gave, well, you better figure out some way to get the dog to open their mouth, right? If you just want it, the simple answer is just put a little food smell, peanut butter or something on the bar. And now the dog opens the mouth to lick, you can click, reward that, click, reward that. So now the dog has progressed one step forward, right? So the purpose of this Facebook Live is not to teach you how to shape or retrieve. So I'm not going to go any further with that. My point is, it is not helpful to punish the barking. The barking is not to get you to feed the dog. The barking is frustration because they don't know how to earn it. And the good news is that if the dog is barking at you, at least they're still in the game. They're still paying attention. If you ignore the barking, the next thing, and don't reinforce or try to fix it, the next thing that happens is the dog turns and walks away. Well, now you're not happy either. But those are both symptoms of the same underlying problem, which is frustration. So first the dog barks at you. You ignore that or you punish it or whatever. And after a while, the dog stops barking at you and starts leaving. I would argue you're worse off with the dog walking off than just barking at you, because at least the dog barking is in the game with you. Now, what happened with this student online is it was hard for her, but she eventually took my advice and ignored the barking, reinforced the behavior she was getting, and in this last week, I've only heard that dog bark one time on video. Because the dog was never demand barking. And I would say the number of dogs that demand bark is really quite tiny. If you think about it, to teach a dog to demand bark, do you know how hard it is just to teach a dog to bark on cue? Many of us struggle horribly to get it. So in order to train demand barking, the dog would have to bark and you would have to instantly give the dog a cookie. So the dog goes, whoa, wow, what caused that? And then that stroke of good luck would have to happen 10 times, 20 times, whatever, it depends how smart your dog is, right? And then the dog would have to try it out. The dog would have to go, woof. You would hear it. The dog would go, woof, like it's a question. And they would wait. That's what dogs do when they're shaped, right? They offer behavior and then they go, is that what you wanted? That's demand barking. The dog barks, checks to see if it's going to get a response. Now remember, you're training it, so then you feed the dog. And very soon, you would increase the number of repetitions you wanted until you had a dog demand barking. Now think about that. How many people actually do that? With perfect timing? Almost nobody. So if a dog is just yapping at you, it's not because he's going, oh, once 3 years ago I barked and he gave me a cookie and I'm now trained to bark. Your dog is barking because he's frustrated and he doesn't know how to win, right? So teach him how to win. What do you want? And that will solve a lot of problems. Another reason dogs bark is because barking is closely linked to arousal, excitement. So for example, my old dog goes for her walk, and when she sees that we are starting the process, she starts to become agitated. She starts to run around the house, and she starts to go, woo, 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 woo. It's actually really irritating to listen to her. But you know what? She's 13 years old. I'm glad she's able to run around the house and bark, so it just makes me happy she's alive. If she was 2, I would actually address the issue. But at 13, I'm glad she's barking. So I take her for a walk. There is no problem. That barking is not frustration, except for the frustration that I'm too slow. She would like me to be faster. That barking is, oh my God, I'm so excited, I'm so happy. So that would be like a child that you take out camping with their friends, and there's a river and streams and rocks and stones and things to do, and all the kids go screaming off like a pack of little wild things and having a great time. That's arousal. It's noise that comes with arousal, barking, yelling, screaming, whatever. It's happy. So if you've got it in your head that all arousal is bad, then you need to sort of start rethinking that, because that's just not true. It's excitement. It's great. It may inconvenience the humans in the family. And anybody who knows me knows for me it's not all about the dogs. It never has been, it never will be. For me, it's about both. It's about the human and the dog and the relationship between the two. So let's say Reiko was not 13 years old. Let's say she was 2 years old and she was doing this horrifically obnoxious, yelling, running around my house, barking at me thing. And I said, do I want to live with this for 12 more years? And the conclusion I came to is, no, I do not want to live with this for 12 more years. Then what would I do? Well, the easy answer is management. As soon as it's time to take her for a walk, say, let's go for a walk, walk straight to the cookie jar, hand her something that will take 10, 15, 20 seconds to eat. Depends on the dog, what that might be, the size of the dog. And while they are swallowing and chewing, just attach the leash, throw a few more cookies on the ground and go out the door and away we go. Or grab a handful of Cheerios, throw them down on the floor in the entryway. That'd take her a minute to find them all. Go get the leash. When she's done, put the leash on her, go out the door. So what I've done in a case like that is managed it, which may actually end up training the dog just because of habit, but I'm just cutting off the issue. And that's, in my opinion, the easiest answer. The other thing is remove all the arousal from the event. So she gets excited and I just don't respond. I just go sit down. And she gets excited and I don't respond. She sits down. That would be treating it as if it was demand barking, right? So when the dog barks, I just withdraw my attention. Well, that would actually work. And the reason it would work is that the reason she's barking is she's getting aroused, right? She's excited, woof, 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 woof. If she got aroused, barked, and I sat down so that she wasn't sure we were going to go out the door because that's what's getting her higher, the lack of predictability, that she starts to get excited and we don't go, and she starts to get excited and we don't go. That process would cause her overall arousal level when she sees me getting ready to go out to drop. The other way I could do that would be randomly through the day 30, 40 times to walk to the front door. She gets excited, pick up her leash, she gets excited, drop her leash and go back in the house. What that does is it unties the predictors, because right now the predictors are very clear. I stand up, I get my phone. I don't usually carry my phone around. Not only do I get my phone, I get my earbuds. All my dogs know what that means. Phone and earbuds, the whole family goes crazy. Not the humans, the dogs. So what could I do? Pick up my phone, pick up my earbuds, walk to the front door, turn around, and just stop the whole thing. Just don't do it. When you break the chain of predictors, you will drop the dog's arousal level. So if you want the dog to be more aroused, you will want a more predictable chain. That's why we teach our dogs routines before we start working them, because the dog learns to predict. Oh my God, she did this. Oh my God, she did this. Oh my God, she did this. And that teaches the dog to predict what happens next. Predictability makes dogs sure. Sureness makes dogs excited. Excited in a positive sense, not in a bad sense. Well, it could be in a bad sense if the predictors were negative. So a friend of mine is teaching separation anxiety for me online next term, and we talked a little bit about this. In that case, the predictors might predict a negative thing. So the dog sees you brushing your teeth and putting on your work clothes, and the dog starts to become agitated because the dog knows that means you're going to leave, and in that case, it's a negative predictor. And really, the solutions are about the same. You want to detach the predictor from the end behavior so the dog doesn't get as high, because arousal does feed the emotion. So if it's a positive emotion, I'm walking my dog, she's excited, she's going too high, that's not really a problem for her. It's a problem for me because she's yapping and I'm tired of listening to it. In that case, you would break the chains, and then that would lower the arousal, lower the odds of barking, away we go. Notice that's not really treating it like demand barking, because demand barking is tied to the barking itself. I'm dealing with the overall energy level, or I'm redirecting it. And because I'm actually fundamentally lazy, I would probably redirect. In the case of separation anxiety, it's the reverse. The anxiety, the agitation is the same. The excitement is the same. The difference is that it's rooted in a negative emotion of anxiety and worry and fear. And in that case, it's really much more important to break the chain because your dog is suffering, and nobody wants to see suffering. How about dogs that bark in agility, right? They just run and yap the whole course. Well, really look at when the barking is taking place, and also the effect on the dog's ability to think. Some dogs, I think they bark because they are frustrated with their own bodies. They can't make their legs turn over fast enough. So they're barking with I can't run fast enough. As long as the head is staying clear and the dog can respond to your cues, because most of agility is muscle memory. The dog is following your body and they're not thinking about it. They're simply responding. In a case like that, I would ignore it because so the dog is high as a kite. As long as they're functioning, barking isn't bad. If the dog is barking and clear-headed and just excited and frustrated with their body because the legs aren't turning over, just go. If the barking is because you're too slow, that's another issue. Because now what the dog is telling you is, I am frustrated with you. And if you ignore that kind of barking, remember what's the underlying emotion? Frustration. What does frustration do to responsiveness? Trashes it. When your dog is frustrated, they can't hear you. They can't think. They can't follow your body cues because they're so busy yapping at you because they're upset with you. So the solution is become a better handler, train better, learn what you're doing wrong and fix it. The other place you'll see frustration barking is when the dog makes an error and the handler decides to address it. Stops running, stops doing whatever, repeats the thing, whatever. It's kind of up to you how you handle that. I take responsibility for errors. I assume that I either did it wrong, which is usually the case, or I didn't train it properly. So I don't usually repeat. There are exceptions. If I'm working with a dog that is excited, happy, aroused, and a really strong worker, and I ask it to do something, and it does it wrong because it's so excited and happy, with a dog like that, I will say, I don't think so. Let's try that again, which about that amount of tone, because I'm trying to bring down the dog's happy a little bit. And then the dog's like, okay, I'll do it right this time. But that's really only for well-trained dogs that I think are just being silly. And they're being silly because they're having such a good time. So I might address it that way. What other kinds of barking? Okay. Around here, when I go out my back door, I mean, I could show you now, but I'm not gonna because it's so obnoxious. Oh, no, I can't because I need my phone. If I take my phone and my earbuds and I go out the back door, the dogs are going to go ballistic because we're going to go into the backyard. And for whatever reason, because of generations of things that have happened for 20 years of dogs I've had, doing that will cause every dog to bullet out my back door screaming. They go, ah! Brito loves this. I think it makes him feel a little aggressive, and he just thinks this is fantastic. He barks hysterically, and he launches himself at random dogs. He's small, so the dogs don't pay any attention to him. They just ignore him as he bounces off them. It's pretty obnoxious behavior. He's having a good time. His yap is something awful and shrill. I don't like it. Lyra also bullets out the door and has a reflex of grabbing and biting. And so, unfortunately, what she usually tries to grab and bite is Reika, which is a very poor decision because Reika does not like to be grabbed and bitten. And Lyra's response to arousal and this inability to control her biting is actually to get worse. So it's a terrible situation. Lyra's arousal is not happy. It's distressed and anxious. And the more trouble she gets in with Reika, the worse it becomes. So the solution in her case is to stick something in her mouth. Totally solves the problem. I did that a few times, and since then she has learned to do it for herself. So now she goes out the door, she runs around, finds a twig or anything to put in her mouth that keeps her out of Reika's space, that keeps her from being attacked. And so that's working for her. So here we have Brito, who thinks it's a whole lot of fun. Lyra, who doesn't think it's fun, but they look the same if you just watch them. They're just coming from different places. And Reika, who's an old lady who's just had it with the whole damn thing and does not want to be bothered, and she just wants to have a nice walk to the backyard with me, so she stays with me to protect her. So of the three, we've got one happy dog, Brito, one neutral dog, Reika, and one unhappy dog, Lyra. In a case like that, if I felt like putting time into it, I would train Brito for my well-being because he's irritating as hell. I would train Lyra for her well-being because it's dangerous that she has this reaction of redirecting on the other dogs. So I did. I trained her. So she carries a toy. And Reika, because she's neutral, I keep her neutral by keeping her with me. What I've been doing lately to deal with the little one is sticking something in his mouth too. So when I go out the backyard, I just grab a few little treats and I drop them on the cement for all the dogs. They're not guardy about things like that. I just drop them on the ground, and what they do is they sort of redirect into the ground, except for Reika, who walks with me, and I'll give her some cookies. And it solves my problem, which is really what I'm looking for. And if I do that over time, it will become a habit, and they will stop that kind of obnoxious behavior going out the door. So those are the examples. But the thing I really wanted to talk about here is the difference between barking, which is under operant, a function of operant conditioning, and barking, which is a function of just classical conditioning. And most barking is not operant. Dogs are not barking to work you. That is quite rare, quite rare. So if I was you, I would stop worrying about demand barking and start worrying about the underlying cause of the symptom that is barking. Okay? Let me go ahead and see what questions you have. You know what, one thing, I'm going to just take this off. The problem with doing a Facebook Live with a tripod is that the thing that holds the phone in place makes it so I can't scroll comfortably. So, where'd your questions go? Hold on. Oh, there we go. All right. Brito is pretty. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me scroll back a little ways. Okay. Okay, so the kids got to see Brito. What kind of dog? We answered those. I am an older kid. That's good. Oh, by the way, kids, don't forget, I'll be looking for those pictures on my wall. Brito is, how old are you? Is he 4? About 4. Brito is very pretty. He's a handsome guy. Barking during agility. Yeah, I know. Shocking. I have to leave. I have a barker at noise and won't quit. I hope to see an answer when I watch. Joanna, I hope you get an answer. Hello. I'm thinking of barking at barn hunt. Not that it's not allowed, but it becomes confusing and at times excessive. Instead of it being a bark as an indication, the dog barks at the handler instead of hunting or more clearly indicating. Jen, that's frustration barking for sure. So either the dog is unable to find the rats, or there are no rats. I don't know what the circumstances are there. Or they are indicating, the handler is not recognizing the indication, so the dog is barking out of frustration. I would go back to training a better indication, so there's no question in the dog's, whatever your dog's indication is. I am assuming the indication is trained. If it's not, I'm not going to be able to help you, because then the indication is the dog's natural expression of frustration. I can't get to the rat. Now I'm digging, whatever the dog does. But that is a frustration bark. All right, Mishy, thank you. This is likely put her at the dinner table. She whines when we are eating and she's not getting food, probably because she's frustrated not knowing how to get food. That or she doesn't realize she's whining. You brought up a great point. A lot of these behaviors are unconscious. Whining is very often unconscious. You know that I use voice recognition on my computer more and more. And that means that it's on during the day. I had no idea how much time I spent talking to myself. Now I know, because I look at my computer and there'll be this whole conversation with myself on the screen. I don't even know I'm doing it. So if somebody said, God, you talk to yourself, I would say, no, I'm not, because I wouldn't recognize that I was doing it. So yeah, the dog doesn't know how to get food. So you can choose. You can either just remove the dog from the situation, and there will be no getting food, crate them or put them out of the room or whatever, or give them something to do, a little chewy, or somewhere else to go. Robin, so here's my question. You said my dog demands his dinner by barking. It's very rhythmic. Bark, 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 wait. Bark, 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 wait. So what do you do would be my question. So let's say you wait until he doesn't bark and then you give him his food. I don't know, right? But if this has been going on for time, then one of two things is going on. Either the dog has literally trained you to feed him, which I find a little unlikely, or it's just a habit and the dog does not think his barking is causing you to feed him. The dog is just barking because that's now what he does when it's dinner time. It is also possible that you could train in a behavior chain of bark, 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 wait. But again, really go back to the roots of that. I suspect your dog just thinks you should move faster and is frustrated with waiting. I have one that barks and pesters me an hour prior to meals. I don't feed unless she is calm and quiet, but the behavior persists. I blame my husband. Well, the behavior persists because she's not barking to make you feed her. She's barking because she's hungry and she's frustrated. So you haven't solved the underlying problem. How can you get rid of the frustration, right? She's hungry. That's not going to go away. That behavior will persist unless you can find a way to make her not hungry within an hour of dinner time. Guys, hunger is a pretty fundamental thing. I mean, anybody here who's ever been on a diet and has decided not to eat something knows perfectly well that being hungry sucks. So if you ate every day at 5 o'clock and you only got to eat once a day or twice a day, think about that for a sec. You're hungry at 4. Would you start whining and walking around the house whining? Yeah. If the person could not solve that problem, the fact that you were hungry at 4 o'clock instead of 5, then your behavior is going to continue. Not because they respond to it or don't respond to it, but because you're feeling hungry. So what can you do to make her feel less hungry? Can you give her a snack at 3, you know, a little chew of some type? Like a, I don't know, what do I give my dogs? I don't know, knuckle bone or something. And then see what happens. See, you're thinking it's trained. This is not trained. That's simply a response. All right, excitement barking when he sees other dogs. Yeah, that's frustration. Okay, so he sees other dogs and he's like, oh my God, look, another dog. Can I play? Yeah, he wants to know if he can go play. So he's frustrated because he's on a leash and he can't get to the other dog. That's what you're seeing. So do you want to deal with that? Well, then it depends what you're going to do next. Are you going to let him play with the other dog? If you are, then probably the easy answer is to redirect his excitement to you. So, pop, 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 right? He looks at you, ask him to do something, sit, whatever, take the leash off and let him go. So that instead of barking when he sees dogs, he turns to you so that you ask him for a few behaviors, then you let him go. Don't get carried away. If you ask for a lot of behaviors, you will have frustration again, and then you will start all over again. So that won't work for you. If you aren't going to let him visit the other dog, then I would back out. Just get out of that situation. Back away, pop, 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 let's go. Give him a few cookies at a greater distance. Get on with your life. Hello, Nadia. I am enjoying my Independence Day. Hi, Milo Fenzi. I'm not getting in any trouble, just so you know. I'm being really good. Teresa, what about annoying, happy barking on walks? Well, that's about you, right? Which is fine. I'm just pointing it out because you did say it's happy barking. So is it just like if my dog runs around the house barking before we go, but your dog never stops? Oh, that's a hard one. I would probably bring along food and every, I don't know, 30 seconds at first, drop a cookie like in the grass or on the ground so the dog gets distracted with something else to do. And just try to shut the dog up. Stick something in the dog's mouth so you don't have to listen to it. I am sympathetic to that. Coyotes are howling at night, races out and barks hard. Well, he's being defensive. So that's, oh my God, there's things out there to be afraid of. Maybe you don't know about them. Let me tell you. I don't think I can help you with that one because it's very, it's wired into people and animals to protect ourselves. So if you thought somebody was running around with a gun, like a genuine threat, your dog cannot understand that that's not a genuine threat to their property. You'd probably run around screaming, oh my God, someone has a gun. And it would be very hard to stop that. My hope for you is that your dog just adapts to the coyotes. If not, you know, you can always hand them a chew and hope that distracts them enough to shut them up. This dog is too loud when she barks at her. He hopes Brito. Brito does hurt my ears. Thank you for asking, actually. His bark is horrific. I don't know how a dog that size can bark that loud. Oh, Kathy, that's a good point. Okay, supper time. One dog barks with the sounds of supper being prepared, and the other one barks to tell the barker to shut up. So what you have is the fun police. You have the one who goes over the top and the other one who's determined to shut the whole thing up. I would put both dogs on a downstay. Most dogs don't bark when they're on a downstay. I mean, there are exceptions, but most dogs just don't. So I would put the dogs on a down when you made dinner, and that might solve your problem. My dog barks during group agility classes when other dogs are having trouble with obstacles and needing help from the instructor through them. I think I'm misunderstanding the question. The way I'm reading that is that your dog gets frustrated with other dogs don't know what to do, which is a little beyond the capacity of a dog. So there might be something else to that question. Yeah, several of you seem to have multi-dog issues. So you have one dog that is controlling the other and is barking or bumping into them or just basically trying to direct the other dog with their behavior. Um, so, well, you can actually address either dog, the barker or the fun police, but control is usually the answer, redirection and control. So call the dogs back and tell them what you want them to do. If you give them a task, that often takes care of it. Or sticking a toy in their mouth, but as the one person pointed out, the dog holds a toy and still bumps the other dog. That may or may not be a problem. Around here, that's not a problem as long as the dog has something in their mouth. It's the biting that is a problem for me. Oh, that's a hard one. Okay, ideas about barking at passing cars, people in the yard. Treats are not as valuable as chasing intruders. That is such a tough one, Reet, because what's happened, you have a distance issue, and I don't know how you can get a greater distance. If you can set it up, I would do kind of a habituation thing where you have the dog actually in the house, but at the edge of the yard. Somebody drives to the front of your house, revs up the engine or whatever, and you have the dog far enough away that you can feed and redirect. If that was my situation, though, I'm not a persistent enough trainer to actually deal with it. So it's the kind of thing I would do long enough to entertain myself and be sure I knew how to do it, but I wouldn't maintain it. And if you don't maintain it, my guess is that that sort of barking is quite self-reinforcing, that your dog enjoys doing that. So if you're not constantly counter-conditioning it, it's going to come back because it's self-reinforcing. So I think on that one, you really have to think about how much do you care. And then you would have to do a lot of setups to train it. If that was my situation, I would probably just bring the dog in the house. So, for example, we have deer right outside my back fence, not in my property, but outside. That deer is there every afternoon, and I know it's going to start up. So when the dogs go out, as soon as they start barking, I just call them back in. It's not something I'm going to train. My dogs are good with me going in and out the door, but not my husband. He does not have the patience to train behavior. How do I treat my husband? Well, I'm assuming you want to keep your husband. So I probably would ignore it completely. See, it's his problem, right? I don't know. Is it your problem or is it his problem? If it's his problem, let him figure it out. If it's your problem, then I'd need a better understanding of the situation. I try not to train my husband too much. The dogs are completely different with my husband than with me, and I don't know. I can't count how many times my husband's I've said, "Why don't you train your damn dogs?" A lot. All right, the dog is unsure in the dark, especially at night. That's common, by the way. Most animals, including humans, are much more suspicious at night. She might bark a bit, more of a growl bark. Seems she is unsure of shapes and sounds, etc. when it is night. Should I approach this by comforting and cookies? That is what I would do, yeah, because your dog is fearful. So if I could, I would sit quietly and just feed the dog. Or some dogs do better with walking, but most, well, depends. At night, what happens is everything gets magnified. So they hear every snap and twig and everything. I would do a combination of habituation, just sitting in his non-stressful an environment as possible and rewarding. Interesting thing is, in a case like that, you might be better off in a noisy place than in a quiet one, because at night a lot of the issue is the individual sounds are louder. So if there's a lot of noise, it may not bother her at all, but if you're in the country and it's dead quiet and then there's one little sound, you're going to hear that more. All right, let's see, Michelle. When the neighbors' dogs are barking, my dog races out and barks with them. If no one else is barking, she'll go out and bark a few times to see if anyone answers. Is this just a highly reinforcing behavior for your? Yeah, she's having a good time. She's a very vocal terrier type breed. If she's quiet outside, we go out and give her a cookie for quiet. But do spend a lot of time interrupting barking or calling her back inside to stop the barking. Are we doing the best we can? Yeah. First of all, understand that if you're reinforcing her for being quiet outside, you are not reinforcing her for being quiet. What you're reinforcing is a calmer demeanor. So that's the point of semantics, but it's actually not. What you're doing is reinforcing her emotional state of being less aroused, and because she's less aroused, she's not barking. So I care about things like that because it doesn't matter in your circumstance, they end up being the same, but it can well matter in another circumstance. Yeah, you're doing fine. You know, eventually, if you get lucky, your dog will go, I think I'll go inside and just eat. All right. Pitter is special, is still able. I know, you know. Okay, Pitter is special and is still able to bark with a stuffy in her mouth. It's muffled, though. Mine do too. But it's muffled enough that I don't care. Pitter doesn't like people and Uno doesn't like dogs. If Pitter isn't home and the doorbell rings, Uno doesn't bark. But if she is home and the bell rings, she will bark and then he will bark. It's the whack-a-mole of barking. Yes, I know exactly what we're talking about. If I change my household dynamics, if I have 2 dogs here instead of 3, it's a completely different environment. And the barking is different because Reika watches Brito and Brito does his own thing. So there's all these stuff that change if they're not all around. All right, Becky, I have a dog who I feel barks for the joy of it. Let's open that up. If I'm moving, she's barking. If it's time to eat, she's barking. If there's an animal on TV, she's barking. She is super vocal. It's not all barking. She grunts and whines. Now I'm managing the 3:30 a.m. I want to eat by now crating her in another room. So that works. If I answer the phone, she's barking. She's quiet on my lap or laying in a chair when I'm on my computer. As soon as I move, she's barking. Is she a Sheltie? Sounds like a Sheltie or an Aussie. They do it too. That is a really hard one because in your dog's case, Becky, barking and arousal are the same. And it sounds like she goes from not aroused to aroused very, very fast. And that means she's barking. And I don't really have an answer for that because they're so tightly tied. I mean, the best you can do is try to manage the arousal, right? So, you know, putting her on a mat, giving her things to do. When you're going to stand up, giving her a cue. So, puppy, sit. As you stand up, she sits. Good girl, let's get a cookie. Although I bet she barks all the way to the cookie, huh? That's a tough one. I don't think I can help you. Somebody else might be able to. It's just not me. Yeah, there's always husband training issues. But if you talk to the men, you will discover there are also wife training issues. So I'm sure it's even. I'm the one, okay, your dog barks when the instructor is interacting with others and you're waiting. So it's the waiting that is causing your dog to bark. And yes, that's frustration. So give your dog other things to do while you wait, tricks or whatever. Or don't have the dog out. I don't usually have my dogs out when I'm waiting. All right. My dogs bark at the neighbor's kids who share our garden. There's not enough space in our garden to get to a distance he's calmer. I avoid going out when they're there, and my dog's always on lead long line unless they can't, pop up unexpectedly. I've made some good progress on him being able to stop barking when he's inside and they're outside, but we're still working on it. You know, it's really tough if you cannot get distance. It's a huge issue. You can try giving your dog a chewy on the way out and see if that gives your dog something to redirect to, but it's a tough one. Barking in the midst of training, competing. Lots of dogs doing HTM. I don't know what HTM is. Bark, losing marks. Working HW, heel work, rather than freestyle, generally produces less or no barking. So I don't know what HTM is. Heel work is probably producing less barking because it's hard. So when dogs have to concentrate and aren't absolutely sure each step of the way, generally the more the dog is paying attention, the more of their brain is wrapped up in working. And if their brains are wrapped up in working, they can't bark. Dogs that are barking in work are almost always doing work that's rote and very easy, and they know how to do it in their sleep. They just can't figure out why you're not feeding them. Yeah, I need more information on that one, Margot. Okay, so when you do heel work to music, your dog barks, but when you do standard heel work, your dog doesn't. I don't know what to say. That's a new one for me. I wouldn't think the music would change the dog. I wonder if the music changes your handling and your behavior because you're more light when you do freestyle type work, and the additional movement of your body elicits the barking. If that's it, what I would do to train it is I would do regular heel work in training at I'm going to say a run, but I don't mean that. It's actually a normal pace, but change to a running gait. So your feet are going boop, 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 boop. And that will cause your dog to get more excited. You can up the rate of reinforcement. And then what you do when you go to a higher gait, it teaches your dog to go into arousal, get rewarded. So that teaches the dog to be calm, because when dogs are eating and they're aroused, they're not usually barking. So that's what I would be looking for. Okay. Marie, my 2-year-old standard poodle barks when we meet hikers or bikers on the trail when he is off leash, but never when he is leashed. He is very friendly once we greet them, but he acts startled when he first sees them and is slow to settle down. Any suggestions? Currently, I keep him leashed much of the time. I think you should keep him leashed. It sounds like a combination of sudden environmental change, SEC, if you want to go look it up. That's when, because like you said, he acts startled when he first sees them. So you're out there alone. He's not expecting to see people or dogs because you're in the middle of the woods. It's the same thing as the person who said they have problems at night. It's at night, they notice individual things because they show up more. On the trail, they notice individual things because they show up more. If you were in town where there's people all over, you wouldn't see the barking. So I have 2 possible suggestions. One is go to much more heavily populated trails, so your dog has way more experiences, and that really might make the dog neutralize to seeing people show up from around corners and such. And I think you're right to keep him on leash. The other thing is when you do keep him on leash, if you see a hiker before he does, tell him. Just say, oh, look, there's a person. Point. When your dog looks, say his name, give him a cookie when he looks back. Because what you're doing is changing his perception when he sees a new person and he looks back to you for a cookie. By the time he looks back again, you said he's friendly. So it's just the startle that's catching his eye. That's probably how I'd handle it. You are wise not to have him off leash because people don't like to be barked at. It scares them. Okay, are y'all done? I'll give you 20 seconds to think up more questions. It's been about an hour, right? All right, I'll set you free. Thanks. I'll talk to you later. Bye.